Greetings, peoples of the interwebs. Jake here, and it's been a long time since I've last recorded anything, and I decided, why not start again? May not be the podcast you all want, deserve, or need in the world, but you're getting it regardless. Joining me on this new iteration of the Pasty Pale Podcast is my good friend, Jon Jennings.
Hello, you, guys. I'm doing great.
So, we've known each other for several years.
Yeah, man, I don't even know how many years. It's crazy.
It was
2015? 7 years? Was it 2013?
I want to say about 2013.
It's 2013?
Because it was Will's and his wife Alicia's annual Halloween party.
Yep.
Because I remember...
Is that the year we dressed up as...
the Will and Lion Cat from Saga. Yeah. Because I remember, the whole time I saw you all there, I was kind of like, I know what they are, but I was also pretty drunk at that point. So drunk brain was kind of interfering with my, recognizing what you all are until finally, it dawned on me. I was like, oh, the Will and Lion Cat!
I think I remember, asking you. I was like, do you know what we are? You seem like... Because we had talked a little bit, and I was like, I bet you... Out of anyone in here would probably know who we are. And you're like, the Will and Lion Cat.
Yeah.
I was like, yes!
Yeah, and that's pretty much kind of headed off from there.
Yeah, from that point, I was like, if you know Saga, you gotta be cool. I feel like that's a comic book that not a lot of people know about. Have you picked it up and read it yet? So I think 53 till now?
No, I think the last volume that I've read was maybe volume 4. I've got volume 5, yeah. So I honestly I haven't really been reading a whole lot of comics lately. Obviously, I've been reading a lot more regular books over the last several months, but yeah, I haven't really been reading a whole lot of comics.
I had the whole run, 1 through 52, before they went on their hiatus. First print of every single issue, even number 1, and my comic book guy talked me into selling them all.
Oh no!
And he was like, dude, it's a gamble. It really is. He's like, this might be the most they're ever worth. And I was like, you really think so? And he was like, yeah, man. They're not gonna come out with a show. He was like, plus they just went on hiatus. You don't know how long it could be on hiatus. It could be on hiatus forever. It could never come back. And I was like, man. So I sold them all to him. I made probably $500 or something off of it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but now the first issue's worth $500. So it's it should have just held on. It's like stocks, right? Hold. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's kind of the thing with comics or really any kind of collectible is it's so unpredictable because in the 90s, that's kind of what almost caused the crash of the comic book industry is so many people were hoarding these first editions, and a lot of some of them were actually worth a decent amount, but then others were not worth anything.
Well, it's like Robert Kirkman, any of his comics to come out after The Walking Dead aired are hardly worth anything because that's what everybody had the same idea. Let's buy 1,000 of the first issues and then we're going to sell them for $3,000 in a year or two when it becomes a movie or a show. And I actually have Outcast. It's a Robert Kirkman comic. I have first issue, first print of that.
Yeah, I think I've got the first issue of that one as well that I think my parents got me for Christmas one year.
Yeah, so that became a show, and the show did terrible. So
the price, I didn't know it was a
so the price of the comic went down super bad.
Wow.
Same thing happened with Rick Remender. He made what is it?
Deadly Class?
Deadly Class.
Okay, yeah, because I remember you loaned me Deadly Class.
Yeah, that's my favorite comic book series still to this day. And that became a show on Sci-Fi, and then did terrible. Yeah. And so now that first issue, first print, it's worth $10, so comparable to the $3 it was originally worth. But it might be worth more now. I don't know. But yeah, it sucks. It's definitely a gamble, So when I sold my Saga, it was I made $500 on it, tight, And it's almost like stocks. When they start getting popular and people are talking about it being something, that's the time to really sell.
But even still though, you could, even if you sell some of your comics or whatever at the peak price that they're worth, 2 years down the road it could be worth double that, and then you're just kicking yourself in the the back because you're like, why didn't I just hold on to it a little bit longer?
But vice versa too.
Yeah,
it'd be
exactly.
Worth nothing. It's just a gamble.
Yeah.
So unless you got something that's never gonna, like I got the Last Ronin. Have you heard about that? It's the new Kevin Eastman Ninja Turtle series.
There's
only one turtle left. I haven't read it yet. I wanted to wait for all 5 of them to come out. I have all 5 of them. I still haven't read it. I don't know what I'm waiting on now. But I bought 2 copies of the first issue. I bought a first print, and then I ended up getting a second print for like $10 or something, real cheap. So I wanted to read one, and then I actually went to Comic-Con last year, and I met Kevin Eastman.
Oh, nice.
And I got him to sign my Last Ronin, and he did like a little picture drawing, like drew a turtle on it.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I got it certified, the signature certified, and then I got it graded. So once it comes back from graded, that comic right now is worth like $300.
Damn.
But Kevin Eastman will die one day.
Yeah, and then it'll be worth even more.
So that's one I'm holding on.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, because he created Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin is only getting more popular because it's supposed to be just a limited series. They didn't make a lot of first prints, first issues, so it's like, that's one of the things that I think I'm going to hold tight to and Dogecoin it. Just hold. Just hold and pray that it keeps going up. So
definitely. So I guess because obviously like I said, we've been friends for several years. So I've kind of devised a series of questions for any time I have a guest on. I spent millions of dollars on a research and business team to concoct 4 questions that I think, like, after people listen to this podcast, if they see you on the street, they'll be like, I know everything there is to know about this man. So, are you ready to be known by the world?
I'm ready. I mean, I always tell people I'm an open book. All you have to do is just kind of peel the page back a little and it'll fly open. So.
All right. So, question number 1. What's your 3rd favorite dinosaur?
Man, 3rd favorite. Probably Triceratops, you know.
Nice.
It's got the 3 horns, 3. There's a Power Ranger, you know. It's not as powerful as a, T-Rex or, Velociraptor. So, yeah, definitely have to say.
I approve of that answer. That would probably be my 3rd. That or Stegosaurus are kind of like tied for me in 3rd place.
Yeah. Stegosaurus is cool too. I don't know. If I remember correctly, they're herbivores though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Or as far as we know, but
Yeah, who knows anything about dinosaurs, right? God, that's who knows. He created them to throw off all the Christians.
All right. So question number 2. Ranch or blue cheese?
What are we eating it on?
Just like in general, like which of those 2 is your go-to condiment? Where it's like I could put this on like basically everything, and it's gonna like improve the flavor.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say that for a long time I would have said ranch, hands down, no doubt about it. But I recently went to Buffalo, New York, and while I was in Buffalo, Buffalo wings, right? You gotta have it. And someone told me like the ranch in Buffalo isn't as good as the blue cheese. Like you gotta get the blue cheese. And in Buffalo they like the gorgonzola that's in it. They like blend it finer. Like here I feel like it's like almost like thicker. You can it's like chunks of it. Whereas there it was almost like blended in, and it was awesome. It was incredible. So if we're talking about Buffalo, we're eating hot wings, I'm gonna go blue cheese all day. But if we're talking Kentucky and I'm eating pizza, I'm gonna go ranch for sure. So I would say ranch 95% of the country, 10% in the Buffalo area. I'm gonna do blue cheese.
3rd question. If I somehow got in possession of the One Ring of Power, would you join me in my fellowship to destroy the One Ring? And if so, what would you offer to the fellowship? Because Aragorn offered his sword, Gimli his axe, Legolas his bow.
One ring to rule them all. Of course I would join you in your quest. I mean, I already did, right? I mean,
that's true. Yeah,
I joined
the Adventures in Middle Earth campaign.
Yeah, I did the Adventures in Middle Earth campaign, and I loved it. I mean, it was so much fun. So I would definitely join you on your quest to destroy that ring. And the only thing that I would have to gift is my skateboard. I would bring it, could be used as a weapon, transportation if we needed it. A speedy recovery.
I'll say, like, if you bring the skateboard, I'm expecting you to like skate down like a flight of stairs and just kill a whole bunch of like urukai.
Yeah,
like
for
Legolas.
sure.
Okay, but I'll also say like you do have a lot of skills in like a lot of miscellaneous various things that are also very useful.
I get told that I'm like the king of random like obscure sports. You know, it's like I'm competitive eater, I'm professional rock skipper, like it's like all these random things that I'm really good at yo-yoing. Like, yeah, it's like I got some other skills that's, I don't know, it's crazy. Skateboarding is definitely my passion though, and I feel like when you're on a quest to that magnitude, you gotta, you know, devote your one true like passion to that, you know, and so I think that's why I would pick skateboarding, because out of all the stuff that I randomly do, even though I'm pro at rock skipping, I gotta keep those rocks, man. I can't. I need those for a contest later. Can't give up that.
But all right, so now that we got all the hard questions out of the way, now I'm gonna throw you a curveball with a fourth and final question. What is the meaning of life?
It's living.
Oh, nice.
That's 100%. Like, I think, like, when I die, I hope that if my friends and family can say nothing else about me, I hope they can say that I lived. And every day that's what I try to do. The reason why I'm in all these random, you know, niche sports is because it's something I think is cool, and I found out it was something, and I pursued to make it happen. You know, it's crazy to think that, like, there was this quote by a band Cursive, and it says, "Dreamers never live, only dream of it."
Huh.
And I don't know, that like hit me hard when I was like listening to that song, and I was like, man, that's so true. So it's like anything I ever think of that I'm like, man, that seems cool. That'd be cool if I don't say that anymore. I don't say that'd be cool if I'm like, we're doing this. I'm like writing down, I'm getting the numbers, I'm looking, researching, how can I make this happen? I never say like, oh, I wish I could do that. Because if you really wish you could do something, you just do it, right? You know, it's like, life's short, you gotta live it.
I think that's actually really probably some of the best advice, because we're like, especially when you look at it like from the grand scheme of things, our lives, human lives, we're on this earth for like a split second, if that.
Not even a blip in the radar.
Yeah,
it's insane how short our lives are, and so it's compared to the millions of years this earth has been around, and we're getting ready to destroy the whole earth again anyways, so it's not got much longer to go. So I mean, it's climate change is happening whether people believe in it or not, you know. So it's you just got to make the best of what time you have on earth. And I don't know, it definitely is something where I think I take that to like the next level sometimes, like coming out, you know, I don't even know if, like, we've talked about this but I start my own skate shop, you know?
Yeah, I think you had your own skate shop, or were in the process of it.
I had my own skateboard company for probably 12 years now. I started my own skateboard company in 2010. And just like maybe a year or two ago, I was sitting on the couch hanging out with my girlfriend, and I was like, VHS. She was like, what? And I was like, VHS, Van Hauling Skate Shop. And she's like, oh, that's a pretty cool name. She was like, who's Van Hauling though? And I was like, it's a van hauling a skate shop. I was like, I'm going to buy an 80s VW van again, and I'm going to convert it into a mobile skate shop, and I'm going to have it all like 80s themed, like, because, you know, VHS, you think of like, I was like, I'll even call the van VCR, because that's what holds VHS. And if anyone's ever like, what does VCR stand for? It stands for Very Cool Ride, right? I had this whole idea. So then I started looking online. I found 80s vans. I drove to Tennessee and test drove some. I drove to Ohio, Indiana. I was driving all at West Virginia. I was looking at some in Florida. Didn't go test drive those. Found one in Louisville. It was great. I ended up buying it. Here we are 2 years later. We've been in business for like 8 months. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's crazy that it's even a real thing, but I made it happen. And you can't get a distribution license for a mobile skate shop. It just can't happen. You have to have a brick and mortar. So I had this idea that I would go buy discounted stuff from other skate shops and I would sell that in my shop. Or I would talk to them and be like, hey, whatever you can't sell, maybe I could be like a clearance outlet for you. Well, the first skate shop I went and talked to about that, they're like, dude, this sounds sick. You come back with some serious money, we'll just let you order a whole order off of our account. So I started ordering my stuff through them, and that's what I've been doing, is kind of like still ordering stuff through them. But now I've had other skateboard companies reach out to me and want me to order straight from them because they've heard of my company. So, I mean, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I mean, it's insane that the stuff that we're doing right now off of me just thinking, this would be a cool idea.
Yeah. Which, that is one thing that I love about, like, this. There are a lot of downsides, the time that we live in, but there are also a lot of upsides, and that is one of the beauties of this current day and age we live in, is it is so easy to basically open your own business, whether it be a food truck or, in this case, a mobile van that sells skateboards.
Yeah.
It's so easy. And I think that is one thing that I do really, really love, especially people like kind of our collective generation, because I think you're only like a few years older than I am.
Yeah, I'm 34. So.
Okay, so yeah, only 3 years older than I am.
Yeah.
But like because I feel like people our collective generation, we're kind of like, I kind of want to do my own thing. Like the 9-to-5 job is fine. That's enough to kind of like get me like on my feet and get me financially stable. But then I'm going to invest that money into like my own, mobile skate shop or my own like little side hustle, whether it be like just making candles, handmade soaps, or whatever. Like it's so. Or like people who cosplay, like that is their profession where they just tour cons. And it's like, imagine people like cosplayers, 30, 40 years ago telling like their grandparents or whatever. It's kind of like, so what do you do for a living? I dress up. Are you a clown? I can be, but no.
Whatever you need.
Whatever you need. And that I get
Why
paid for
so
that.
serious? I am a clown.
Yeah, so I think that's just so cool that, or again, YouTubers, podcasters, where that's, whether it be like their profession, like where, that's their full-time job, or even just a side gig. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's insane that you can, I don't know, like I tell people too, like I just can't have enough side hustles, I feel like. It's like, because my day job does pretty good. It takes care of what I need to take care of, so since my day job takes care of all the bills and stuff, and it's a boring desk job, I want to have fun afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Why not make a little bit of money while I'm having fun? Like if I go and set my skate shop up, and I don't make any money that day, well, I'll just skate. I'm gonna be there anyway, skateboarding.
Still a productive day.
Yeah, might as well just. So it's definitely something where if I can make a little cash, or like rock skipping. I may not win all the contests, and even if I did win every single contest, I don't even think I would make $1,000.
Yeah,
like the prize money is not there for rock skipping, but I travel to Mackinac Island, Michigan. I go to Bennington, Vermont, Franklin, Pennsylvania. I mean, I went to Niagara Falls, going to Vermont not that long ago. Went to Little Rock, Arkansas. It's like all these places that I don't normally go. When I went to Little Rock, I ended up driving over to Tupelo, Mississippi. Like, I go to all these places to skip rocks, and then I end up finding out all these cool places around it.
So how'd you get into like rock skipping, by the way? Because I remember like I saw that like on Facebook, and I was like, that seems on brand that you would get into like professional rock skipping.
I know. So when I mean, I can't remember not being able to skip a rock a lot. Like, my oldest memory of me being able to skip rocks, I could skip them 10, 15 times easily. And even as a little kid, I could skip rocks better than all my older siblings. And when I say my older siblings, my grandmother watched all of my cousins as well. So I'm counting all of them.
Yeah.
Everyone who was at my grandma's house, all my cousins, and all my actual siblings, I could skip a rock better than all of them when I was a little kid. But I just thought, like, they're not that good at skipping rocks.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I was anything special. I just thought they sucked. And then I got older, and my friends, I was better than skipping rocks than them, too. And I have a couple of friends that can sometimes kind of come close, but it was nothing like, I was still, like, by far better than most of the people I knew at doing it. And I remember my uncle seeing me skip a rock one time, and he was like, man, this has to be some type of, like, there has to be competitions for this.
Yeah.
And you could do good. And I was like, I don't know. I'm sure there's not, you know. And then me and my ex-wife, we were on our road trip that we did a podcast about.
Yes, I remember that.
On your podcasts. And on our road trip, we went to Mountain View, Arkansas. And in Mountain View, Arkansas, we saw a poster for the Great Southern Rock Skipping Championship. And from seeing that poster, I found out that rock skipping was a competitive thing that you could do. And from seeing that poster, my girlfriend, I was talking to her about it because I wanted to go. She found out about another rock skipping contest in Mackinac Island, Michigan. It's the longest running rock skipping contest. It's been running for like 53 years, 54 years or something. Yeah, it's been going on forever. The water's super choppy up there. It's super hard to skip any kind of numbers. If you skip 20 up there, you're doing great. I've got 19 there before.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's like the pro who won this past year got 18.
Damn.
So it's like, yeah, it's super hard water to skip on. But so I found out about that one. I went up there. I did pretty good in the pro open there. I didn't win it, but I did okay. And then some of the other pros there told me about the other two contests in Pennsylvania and in Vermont. And then I ended up going to those, and I did pretty good. I didn't win any of them, but then, like, Arkansas was like, I had to go to that one because that was the first one I heard about. And, but it kept getting canceled due to COVID. And so I finally made it to Arkansas this past, like, competition. And not only did I win the, like, top division, like, pro division, but I also set a record for that particular contest. So I skipped 39, and no one's ever skipped that high before at that contest. So not only did I get first place, but I also skipped the record for the amount of skips that have ever been done at that contest. And one of my really good friends is actually the world record holder for rock skipping now. So my buddy Kurt, he's just a world-renowned rock skipper. Like,
are there international tournaments?
Yeah. There's a couple in Japan. The ones in Japan are like, they base it off of show as well. So it's not only how many skips and how far you skip, but how you throw the rock. So they're like real flashy, and it looks like it's morphin time or something. Like, yeah, they're throwing their arms around. It's cool though. I mean, they skip far. I mean, it's and they do good. And like, the amount of style that they put into it is really interesting to watch them skip a rock. And then, as we were talking earlier, in England, they do like a distance. That's where the World Championship of rock skipping is held. And a man from England actually has the world record for distance. It's only, I think it's like 399 feet, which I saw someone at a contest unofficially throw like 415 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. And he didn't even realize he threw that. He didn't even know, like, it was crazy how far this guy threw. And so, but yeah, so I mean, it's all over the world. It's just real small, and it's kind of like disc golf, you know? Like, disc golf, I don't know, 10 years ago, people were just throwing disc at trees. I remember the first time I ever played disc golf, my cousin told me about it, and he was like, hey, we're just going to play golf with this frisbee, and we're going to say that to that tree is a par 3, so it should take 3 throws to hit that tree. And I was like, okay, so that's how I started playing disc golf, was just doing that. And then now it's like on ESPN, and it's like crazy, like how big disc golf has gotten. There's disc golf course everywhere. Like,
yeah, there's one at the park, just like, I don't know, not even 5-minute walk from here.
Yeah.
Because that's how I first found out about it. Because I know, I think my dad was shortly after we moved in this neighborhood. I remember my dad was walking to the park and then saw people throwing frisbees. Like, what the hell's that? And I guess people are kind of like, oh, it's disc golf. And then he's kind of like, I think I might want to get into that. So every now and then, like, me and him would just go to the park and play disc golf. I wasn't particularly good, but it was, I could usually get distance okay, especially like when I threw, I guess that'd be backhanded or underhanded.
Yeah.
I could usually get pretty good distance, but I never really got good at like kind of, because it usually like veer to the left, which obviously if like that's where the hole was, ideal, but most of the time it wasn't. And so I was not very the best at like kind of getting it in the right, like, or getting it to where it didn't like veer so much to the left.
So there's like different numbers on, do you know this? That there's different numbers on discs, and their numbers are the degrees that they turn.
So I didn't know that, because I know that like obviously there are different types of discs, kind of like with
golf clubs,
like putters and
drivers and mid-range. But on those, there's different numbers, and so you can get like I can't remember the pattern, but it's like one of them is like the speed, distance, how many degrees it will turn one way, and then how many degrees it fades back. So I mean that might be something that you look into.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I play a little bit random sports, right? If it's a random sport, I probably do it a little bit. So, but I play a little disc golf. I actually have a par 3 in my backyard, so
nice.
I just go back there and throw some discs. So I aced it the other day. I kept telling people, first person to ace it gets $50, and then I aced it, so now I lowered it. Next person to ace it gets $20. So, but yeah, it's definitely, ace means like hole in one. Like, so yeah, no, but I think rock skipping can be like that. You know, like I think it's gonna be something where it's like no one really knows about it. People start hearing about it, and I think it could potentially blow up. I mean, we're in the talks with some pretty big companies about doing a pro contest in Kentucky next year.
Do you know where you would have it at? Or?
Yeah, so there's a little town called Rabbit Hash, Kentucky. Their mare is a dog. It's a French bulldog. Every time they elect the mayor, they elect the dog. Nice. It's been going on for like, I don't even know, however long. It's a long time, like years. They've been electing dogs as their mayor. And the thing that sucks about this town is it's right off the Ohio River. And right across the Ohio River is like Belterra Casino. And this huge giant metropolis of a city around that, like Belterra. But the bank is too shallow on their side. So it can't get boats in there. So that was the big thing, is they couldn't have like people like ports. And that's what happened to the other side where Belterra's at, is people could like reach there with boats. So it's good river access for river transport and stuff. And so Rabbit Hash is this tiny little town. It has a general store, a little food truck thing that's off of this like barn that they use for events. I think it might have a campground and like a little like wine tasting place.
Wow, that's even bigger than, because I grew up in a very rural part of western Kentucky, where it's, I wouldn't even say it's like population wise, it's like a village. So it's maybe got like a little over 200, maybe 300 people. But like it's because usually like village, I always in kind of picture like village being like very close together, like the buildings and stuff like that. But it's more just there's a general store / gas station, an elementary school, and then houses spread all over the place. And that's literally all that's there.
There's no gas at this general store. This is not a general store with gas.
Wow.
The only gas you can get there is beer.
Yeah, that's,
so
that works for me.
Yeah, there's no school either. Like, it's like, this place is tiny, but it's really cool. And behind it is like this little creek that jets out into the Ohio River. And the bank from the creek jets out. And so the way the Ohio River flows, it causes this like steel pool on the other side of the bank. And it's like perfect for rock skipping. And people can sit on the bank and watch. And then also people counting can be on the bank as well. And so it seems pretty ideal for a rock skipping tournament. So that's where we're looking at. That's where we're more than likely going to have it. I've been in talks with Terry. She runs the general store, about getting it, prepped and everything ready for next year. So I'm looking at like getting sponsors now, and we'll see how it goes. So I don't know. I want to do like cash prizes for the top 10 pros. I want to try to give gas cards out to some of the pros to drive out there, because that's like some of the contests we go to. We can like camp for free, so they give you a free place to stay. They'll normally provide food and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's like not that much money at all for them to do that.
Yeah.
And the pros, they're all like, literally Kurt is known as like the mountain man. Like it's just these all good old country boys out there skipping some rocks. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to try to get some sponsors and try to make sure that we can take care of the pros that come out, and then also do like cash prize for amateur and the other age divisions and stuff. So,
man,
you also got to do fudge too. It's like a tradition. Fudge has to be one of the prizes. So we did a contest out at West Six Brewing on their pond out on their farm, and it turned out really good. I think we had 50 plus participants, and we raised $500 some for Kentucky Waterways Alliance. Like, it's a nonprofit organization that, you know, helps clean the waterways of Kentucky. And yeah, I mean, that's my goal, is just to try to grow the sport and do as much good as I can for conservation around it.
Wow, man, who would have thought like rock skipping would have all these? I guess. Well, I don't know. 'Cause I guess that's another thing too that is in this day and age is stuff like that. That usually when I think of rock skipping, that's like something that I expect to see in something like shows like Andy Griffith, or like those rural towns in the middle of nowhere in like the 1950s or 40s, where like that's all they had is like, you know,
rocks and sticks.
Yeah, rocks and sticks. But like, yeah, now with like social media and stuff like that, and under the right hands, it's like, yeah, you can turn something like rock skipping into like a cool kind of trendy thing where it's kind of like, yeah, just disassociate yourself from technology for a while. Don't worry about like phones, laptops, anything. Just
come out and skip some rocks. Yeah, I mean, it's and it was actually on ESPN The Ocho the past 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, so they kind of filmed it almost like joking because nothing was going on during the pandemic. Yeah. There was no sports. But rock skipping was still going on. So they like came out and filmed one of the tournaments, just kind of like joking around. And then they aired it on the Ocho, and then they did it again. They filmed another one and aired it on the Ocho. They didn't film any this past year, but we're definitely going to try to talk to some, you know, other like sports companies and see if, you know, I mean, how cool would it be if the X Games came out for rock skipping? You know what I mean? Like, you could definitely do something like that. There's a lot of companies like that if people are going to come out for people doing lumberjacking, you know what I mean? People are going to come out and watch rock skipping. I mean, I've seen it happen time and time again. I mean, it's these contests are big, you know, and it's not something that, and a lot of them have been going on for years, and they have no coverage or exposure, really. People don't even know that they exist, and they're big from what little exposure they have. Yeah. So it's like, if you could get like a platform to kind of expand that exposure, and that's what like some of the other pros are working on right now, is trying to think of ways. They're actually working on like getting rankings for the different pros throughout the like country and stuff, and just try to like, so you can have like a, you know, regional ranking, national ranking, and stuff like that, to like make it like a legitimate sport. So, but I mean, it's legitimate to me. I mean, I don't know what makes a legitimate sport, right? I mean,
I don't know sports at all. That's a legitimately good question for me.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. But you think about rock skipping too, is it's like the only sport that doesn't cost any money at all.
Yeah.
Like anything, you want to become a runner, you got to buy running shoes. You know, you can come out to a creek, butt naked and barefooted, and pick up a rock for no money and throw it in and try to skip it. And that's the thing, is like everyone has skipped it. You've skipped a rock, right?
Yeah, I'm not very good at all.
But you've tried. Yes. You've thrown a rock in there and tried to see how many skips you can get, and it's something that everyone does, and everyone, no matter how rich, how poor, nothing, they've all done it, you know. And when you go to these contests, it's all walks of life there, you know. It's like some of these guys are literally walking out of the mountains where they live 100% off the grid, no electricity, nothing. They come down to like skip rocks pretty much. And then you got people like me that, you know, is comes out of my office, takes my polo off, and puts my rock skipping shirt on, and goes out and skips some rocks. Throw my Vans on and get out there and skip some rocks. Like it's just crazy that it has no financial bracket around it. It's something that transcends all barriers of all societal beings.
I guess that's the beauty of that, because like you were saying, it's like it's pretty much everyone of like probably since the beginning of time has skipped rocks, whether accidentally because they were maybe angry and threw a rock at a river and they're like, oh hey, I got a good bounce on that, let me see if I can do that again.
Cavemen have been it's the oldest sport, guarantee it. Like guarantee people can skip a rock since the beginning of time.
Yeah, the simplicity of it too is like, you just any body of water. I would imagine like you have to have a good chunk of water to obviously skip rocks, but any creek, river, lake, pond, whatever, like, and you've got rocks, then you're set.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and it's my girlfriend's kids. They like to play this game like can John skip it? And they like to find like these crazy rocks and see if I can skip them. And a lot of times I can at least get like 1 or 2 skips. I mean, it might not be a record beater or anything, but I'm gonna get a couple of skips out of most rocks. It's a fun game we play. It's funny too, because like when people find out that I skip rocks, like professionally, they like will bring me rocks. They're like, "Oh man, I found this rock. Is it good?" And I'm like, "No, but I'll take it." Like, I appreciate it. Thank you for finding me this rock. Like,
have you tried to skip other things outside of rocks?
I think I could skip a cell phone real good. I swear. Well, it's not, so like in these competitions they have to be like naturally formed. Yeah. So there's nothing added, nothing taken away of the rock. But there's this guy, his name's Skipper Chris. He has like a YouTube and stuff. You can just look him up, Skipper Chris on YouTube. He makes manufactured rocks. And he takes iron sand and mixes it, and he mines his own iron sand. And apparently iron sand is like super dense and heavy, and it's actually metal. And there's like these pools of it in Vermont wherever he lives. Like he goes and like collects iron sand. He has like this giant magnet, and he goes over these beaches and collects all this iron sand, and then mixes the iron sand with concrete, and it gives it like a really good weight to it. Yeah. And he has like this like 3D printed like mold in which he pours the concrete in, and they're amazing. I mean, these rocks are like perfect. So I've skipped those. He gave me like 5 of them. I've skipped 2 of them. I don't want to like lose them, It's like the 2, because that's the thing about rock skipping too, is like you really can't hold on to these things because they're going to be gone. You're giving them back to the earth, I got this rock right here. I could hold on to this for a long time, but I want to see how many skips it's going to skip. Yeah. And I could try to wait until, Franklin, Pennsylvania, you can get your rocks back, or even at Vermont, you can sometimes get your rocks back. So I can wait to one of those to see if I can get it back. But then also, I might not. Yeah. You never know. You're never guaranteed your rock back ever. So I have one rock I've skipped like 8 times, though. I keep finding it. So I see where it lands, I keep my eye on it, and then at the end of the competition, I go and try to find it. And I've been able to find it every time so far. So
the boomerang rock just keeps on coming back.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's weird. It's definitely something that I feel like people think I'm almost like joking when I first talk about it, but then when they talk to me for like 5 more minutes about it, it's like, oh, whoa, it's something he's actually serious about. This isn't a joke, so I should stop laughing, I guess.
I could see that, because how many people? You're the only person that I know that like professionally skips rocks. Anyone else that's like, I'm a professional rock skipper. It's like, get out of here. That's not a thing.
Yeah, I swear, when I tell people I do it, it's like a joke to me. Like, it's not even like, I don't know. It's just funny. It's all fun and games out there too. Like, everybody has like silly names. Like, they call me the Green Giant. Like, everybody gets
you are quite tall.
Like, yeah, and they've actually called me the Johnny Green Giant since I was in high school. I've been like, that's been like my nickname forever. So I just kind of kept it going, and But yeah, it's something where it's like people have silly nicknames and they come out there. I do this thing where I take my hat off and wave it to the crowd every time I skip, and I don't know. It's just, if you try to take it serious, people are gonna make fun of you. So if you make fun of it, people are gonna laugh with you. You know. So
do any people do like any kind of theatrics with whether they show up in like any kind of costume or anything like that? Oh, really?
No, there's costumes. There's everything. Some of the names too. Like this guy came up skipping. He just went by Rainbow. Yeah. At first I thought he said Rambo, and I was like, oh, is that Rambo? Yeah, I know a couple people. And he was like, no, Rainbow. I was like, my bad, man. Okay. Yeah, and he was really cool. He was selling all the college kids acid, I think, or something. So, but he was a nice guy. He was great. But it's just all walks of life, man. It's cool. It's just a fun thing to see, and see a lot of baseball pitchers out there. A lot of golfers and baseball pitchers. See that. Yeah, so it's something where, I don't know, it's cool too, like, you like see these pros with their rock collections. Like they've been like gathering rocks all year long for the season to start. The season starts 4th of July weekend in Mackinac Island. We're going to try to do ours, we're going to try to start the season with Kentucky this next year, see how it works. But we're going to either do like late spring or early summer. But once it starts, you literally have to like pick your rocks per contest. You can't like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like you're like saving certain rocks for certain sections. Like you know the water's gonna be different some places.
Do you have like a limit of how many rocks you can throw, or does that vary like between like?
Well, every contest is normally like 6 stones is about what you get in the pro divisions. So. And they do what they call round robin. So first person will throw 2, next person will throw 2, and they go through the whole like chain of people. And but yeah, it's cool, man. It's a fun thing, and the camaraderie between the pros and stuff. Like all the pros normally stay at the same campsite, and they all camp out together, and they all hang out afterwards, and it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of cool people that just go out there. A lot of unique people too. I mean, that's the thing, is it's like rock skipping isn't something that everyone does professionally. So the people who do it professionally are pretty intricate, unique people. So I don't know. It's cool. It's a fun thing.
Nice. And I don't know why I didn't think about it earlier when we were kind of talking about comics. But did you ever watch the Why the Last Man show?
No, I did not watch.
Okay, so I was kind of curious because like I know we've talked many times about like Brian K. Vaughan and our mutual easily my favorite comic book.
Have you watched Girls?
Girls, Paper Girls.
Paper Girls.
Okay, yeah. I've seen the first 3 episodes.
I'm about. I think I got 2 more episodes left. They don't really follow the comic book too much, and so I kind of... The first episode is, like, dead on the first issue.
Yeah, almost, like, verbatim to...
Yeah. But then the second episode is, like, a lot different, and then it changes. Like, there's, like, different aspects that are kind of same, but, I don't know, they changed it a lot. I haven't even read the full series either yet. I have, like... 3 episodes left of the show and, like, 3 issues left of the series to read. So.
Yeah, because I've only read the first trade, which I did really like. Because it's one of those things where, like, when you try to explain it to people, it sounds like, how does this work? Yeah. But then when you actually read it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, somehow this weird combination of time travel, 80s, and dinosaurs and stuff like that makes sense. But kind of the same thing with like Why the Last Man though is that's one of my all-time favorite comics. Like that is what got me into reading comics. That and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, like those comics.
So is it actually is it Why the Last Man or is it The Last Man?
So it's Why the Last Man.
Okay. Because there's also a series called The Last Man or something.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was with Will Forte. It was kind of like a comedic. I didn't actually watch the show, but from what I've seen of like trailers and stuff, it kind of seemed like the same premise, but more of a comedic spin to it.
Yeah, I didn't know that they made a Why the Last Man. So
it got canceled, and it was on FX or FXX, whichever one of those.
Too many F's, too many X's.
Yeah. So I watched it on Hulu, and I kind of liked it, but I haven't finished it yet because I wasn't super into it because they were kind of changing it up from the comics. But like one of the biggest issues was the actor who played Yorick. Like he wasn't bad, but he wasn't as, I guess, like kind of goofy and likable and like aloof as Yorick in the comics, because that's like his main thing is like he is the last person you would want to have to be the last man on Earth, because he's a magician.
Yeah.
Like that's his goal in life, is to become a professional magician. So not someone you would think or want to be like the hope of humanity. But that's what I liked so much about his character.
To repopulate the Earth.
Yeah. Because he was so endearing. But in the show, he wasn't as, for me personally, he wasn't like as likable or as endearing. And then his banter and connection with Agent, I can't remember the numbers, Agent 337 or whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I really like those two in the comics too, because like their chemistry and their banter back and forth. Because she is essentially what you would expect to be like the male character in that type of scenario. Like this very like they can handle themselves in almost any situation. But that's what made their relationship or their banter and their chemistry so well, because they bounce off each other really well. So I didn't like their dynamic as much in the show. And then when it got canceled, I felt less compelled to finish it. But for me, it was really disappointing because that is one of my all-time favorite comics, and it had been in development hell for so many years. And it finally comes out, and then it gets canceled, and I'm like, well, shit.
Yeah, like, I feel like The Walking Dead had it right. And I think that a lot of these, like, producers and different things look at The Walking Dead, and they think, like, oh, we could do it better.
Yeah.
And because have you read The Walking Dead?
I've read up to, I think a little after the prison is when I started keeping track.
So pretty far, though.
Yeah.
And you've watched about that far into it?
I watched a little bit further in the show, and the show was, like, really, like, the production value was obviously really good, the casting was great, but, like, I think the biggest issue with the show is, like, in between, like, the big moments, there's just so much, like, meandering of characters, just kind of like soap opera drama stuff, and I'm like, I don't care about this stuff. I'm not expecting like action every single episode, but like there's just a lot of, like kind of soap opera drama stuff, and I'm like, that, I don't know, it just wasn't my thing.
Well, what I liked a lot about The Walking Dead is if you watch the series and you've read the comic, they're very close to the same.
Yeah.
And what I always tell people is it's like the same story, but two different people are telling it.
Yeah.
If I told a story and you told a story, there's going to be a lot of the key points are going to be the same, but you might think, oh, Carol actually did this, and you're like, no, it was Brenda or whoever else, Like, so a lot of that stuff will change, but we'll get the big points.
Yeah.
And the main things will happen, And I liked that from The Walking Dead a lot because I felt like that they did a really good job of making it follow the same storyline without having to take their script from the comic. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too, of any kind of adaptation, whether it be from, like, book or comics, is there some things that, like, are just harder to adapt into live action, because some things just don't always translate as well, or just realistically, even a show like Walking Dead, where I think it was, like, 10 episodes every season, each one's about 45 minutes to an hour long, you still only have so much time to adapt these comics that have been going on for years. So it's like, okay, what do we cut out, whether it be characters or story? And most of the time, like, I'm okay with, like, maybe combining characters or leaving certain things out, as long as it drives the story forward. And then other times, like, because I don't know if you've been watching Rings of Power or not.
I've not watched that, no.
So I've got a lot of issues with that show. There are some things that I love, like aesthetically, beautiful, gorgeous. I don't think anyone can deny that. And there's some things with the lore that are, like, great, like, super deep cut stuff where I appreciate, where I'm just going like, yes, they get it. But the writing is what I take the biggest issue with in the show, is it's just, the writing's not great, and it takes me out of it, because they're just, I don't know, like, it frustrates me, because I'm like, this show should be amazing. It should be great, but it's very just mediocre. Like, I don't hate it, I don't love it, it's just very in the middle of the road for me, and part of me is like, I might prefer to hate it, because at least, like, if I hated it, I could
talk trash about it.
Yeah, but, like, this show, it's like, I'm so mixed, where I'm like, part of me is like, I kind of want it to be canceled, because, like, then hopefully no one will touch Tolkien ever again, because it is just a tall order to like match even the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
Because Peter Jackson couldn't even do that with The Hobbit, which, yeah, that didn't need to be 3 movies anyways. But
tried real hard though.
Yeah. But and part of too with the show is like they don't have the rights to all of the stuff in the Second Age too. And it's like, why did you spend $1 billion on that show when you don't even have the rights to all the stuff in the Second Age? But anyways, digressing. That's a separate podcast I plan on doing because boy, do I have thoughts.
Yeah.
So once the show ends, I'm gonna do a full blown breakdown, analysis, review.
Nice.
But I will also, again, there is a lot of stuff to like in the show. But I guess that's kind of again with any kind of adaptation is you run the risk of like, okay, how much do you change for the sake of adaptation, and then how much do you try to keep in for the fans?
Well, at least it's still good though. Like, have you ever read Sweet Tooth?
Yeah, so because you actually loaned me the first, I think it's the first volume.
Probably, yeah. I got all the trades of it, so I'm sure. And it's great. I mean, it's very simply written. I think it's Josh Lemire.
Yeah, Josh Lemire, or Jeff Lemire.
Jeff Lemire, that's it. Jeff Lemire. He's amazing. Mm-hmm. His writing, everything he does, Royal City's good. Everything he does is just like very simply written, but it's really good. It doesn't take long to read. Mm-hmm. But Netflix did the show. Did you see that?
I didn't finish it, but I watched some of it.
And it was horrible. So it's like you couldn't even like it a little bit. I mean, the kid...
They changed the story a lot, too.
They changed so much of it, and the kid wasn't even like really that Southern. He almost sounded like British. Like it was just like...
Yeah, like it... For me, it was one of those things where, like, the show itself was not bad, but I think since I had read the comics, and so from how much they had changed, that took me out of it, to where I'm like, I can acknowledge that this show is well done, like, the acting is really good, the set designs,
I wouldn't even say the acting is good. The set designs were pretty good, but at the same time, it's post-apocalyptic, you know, so you just got to take what's normal around you and make it look a little older.
Yeah.
Like, and less upkept, like... So, I don't know. It was definitely something that I was very bummed about because that is one of my favorite comic book series. And I can read the whole thing in 2 days because it's so simply written, but it's so well written. It just flows. And I was very, very disappointed in the show. Because it didn't follow any of the storyline.
I feel like for the first maybe couple episodes, they were kind of following it more or less. But then, after like the first 2 episodes, then they went off and did their own thing.
Yeah.
And kind of to your point, though, because, the comics is pretty simple. Like, there's not a whole lot to it to kind of, like, divert from because it's kind of like, well, if we adapt it to live action, we have to, like, take this out because it just works. But it's like, it's pretty adaptable. Pretty easily adaptable.
You could have... verbatim, like you could have just done that whole script.
Because because it is pretty simple, in the best kind of way, simple.
Yeah.
So it's like, it wouldn't have been hard
to our listeners, if you have not read Sweet Tooth, go read it. Don't watch the show.
Check out all these comics that we've recommended. Because indie is, in my opinion, indie is where it's at. Like, I like Marvel and DC fine, but indie stuff that's what got me into reading comics, and that's honestly, like, some of the best storytelling is in the indie comics. I'm not even a big fan of Marvel and DC at all. I don't read any superhero stuff at all. Like, I tried reading some of the Thor. I think it was Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron's run is really good. Yeah. Like, especially the God Butcher, God Bomb storyline was great. I just couldn't get into it, man. I don't know, something about superheroes. I just can't. But he did the, was it Southern Bastards? Yeah. And that was a great comic. I mean, that was awesome. I think you loaned me the first issue of Southern Bastards, too. Probably. I mean, it's a great comic. So, I mean, it's definitely something where I can't get into superheroes. Everybody's always like, oh, you should read... I think Rick Remender did, like Wolverine and X-Men or something. Probably, because I'm trying to remember what... Because I think I've read some of his, like, Marvel and DC stuff. Yeah, he has some Marvel stuff that he's, like, really well known for. But... I like all of his independent stuff. I would rather just read all of his indie stuff that he's still doing. I feel like a lot of these, like, writers like Jason Aaron or Rick Remender is, like, they go to, like, Marvel and DC to kind of, like, build a name for themselves, and then they're kind of like, okay, now that I've kind of built up a reputation, I'm going indie. just because you're likely to sell, and it is smart because like you're probably going to get a fatter paycheck with Marvel and DC.
Yeah, and most of their independent comics get canceled, so I mean it's Southern Bastards got canceled.
Did it?
Yeah, it got canceled, and then I don't think it finished out. I think it was like 5 issues, like one story arc away from being done or something.
Oh, that's it?
Canceled. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's coming back again sometime. And then I think Black Science might have gotten canceled too. I don't think it finished out either. That was a big Rick Remender one.
Yeah, because I think you might have loaned me
I had the trades
Black Science. I don't know if it was the trade or if maybe it's just like the first couple issues.
I don't have any singles of that. I just have trades. Yeah, I just have trades of that.
Yeah, so like Black Science.
It's good. I mean, I think Black Science, I guarantee it's going to become a movie soon or a show. Mm-hmm. I would bet money on it because it's the whole like, alternate universe type thing, and that's really popular right now. So I think that.
I have also noticed that like there have been a lot of like movies and especially shows where they're adapting a lot of like these indie comics because I think they realize like comics are still really popular, mostly the superhero stuff, but it's kind of like comics are more popular to an extent now than probably ever. Like obviously sales still aren't great, but like I guess like the
I think Marvel like is what boomed it. I feel like Marvel. The movies is what really brought back like the comic book industry. I could be wrong, but I mean, all the Marvel and DC movies that were coming out, I think people, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone wearing like, Avengers comic book shirt. Yeah. And I go, oh, do you read Avengers? And they go, no.
I just like the movies.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, which is fine.
That's a cool shirt, you know? But then, or a lot of times people are like, yeah, I read it. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, do you like, you got the Deadpool shirt from who was it? The Brian Posehn or someone wrote Deadpool. I was like, oh, you got the Brian Posehn Deadpool shirt on. You like Deadpool? And they're like, yeah, I love the comics. Yeah. And it's like, okay, like they watched the movie, then got into the comics. Like, it's cool, So it's definitely like a gateway to comic book reading, I feel like sometimes.
And it is always like, especially now with like kind of nerd culture being like the social norm, it is always interesting to get into like those conversations where you'll be talking to someone, they might be wearing like a Marvel shirt or something, so you're kind of like, okay, like, what's your favorite Marvel comic? And sometimes they are just like the movie fans, and then sometimes they're like, my favorite issue is like issue 334, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not even that knowledgeable.
You just out-nerded me.
Yeah. But it's always kind of... It's always hard to gauge people's like knowledge and fandom because like again, Lord of the Rings is like my jam. Like all things Tolkien, that is the closest thing I get to religion. So if you're like, oh, I love Lord of the Rings, I get excited. I'm like, yes, okay, have you read the Silmarillion? They're like, what's that? I'm like, okay, so
you just like the movies.
Yeah, you just like the movies, or it's like, and again, maybe they even have read the books. Like, oh, what's your favorite part of the books? But yeah, most people, they just like the movies, which is totally fine. And I can go on for hours on just the movies alone. But even sometimes I'll talk to people at the movies, and they're a bit more casual. Like, they like the movies, and I'm kind of like, yeah, in that scene where, like, so-and-so and, like, this stuff, and they're like, who? It's like, like Faramir, Boromir's brother. Like, oh, they're brothers? It's like, yeah, they're brothers. Like, it's mentioned in the movies quite a bit that they're brothers.
That's my extent of Lord of the Rings knowledge right there. That and how much we played Middle-earth. So, Adventures in Middle-earth, and my nephew was like obsessed with the movies, and I was his nanny for a little while, so that's all I wanted to do all day. Yeah. Just watch the trilogy again.
Wise man.
So, like, I've probably seen the whole trilogy a couple hundred times, but I can't tell you a whole lot about it because it was just one of those things where he just was glued to the TV and I'm cleaning up or doing whatever, or making lunch for him, and he's just like watching it, jumping up on the living room table, throwing a sword out, saying he's Aragorn and stuff. So calling its little brother Legolas. So
nice.
I know who those characters are, but that's about it. But it's a good series. I still like it. But yeah. I think I'm that way about skateboarding. Like how you are about Lord of the Rings. That's probably like my skateboarding. Like skateboarding is probably my Lord of the Rings. It's like the thing I know the most about.
They're pretty good. Like just like there's like a while back you showed me a video where you're essentially like walking on the skateboard. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like I don't really know how to describe it well, but like the skateboard is like sideways, like
it's up on this. Yeah, it's called Primo. Yeah, so it's up on the side. You're on the wheels and on the side of the board. Yeah, that's like a freestyle trick. I can do a lot of freestyle stuff, and once I get my foot fixed, I'll be able to skate a lot more, hopefully. So, yeah, it's definitely something where, but like not even just like skateboard tricks and stuff, like the history and the industry of it and just everything about skateboarding is like so fascinating to me. So like when people were like, the other day, I was talking to this guy about, and he was like, oh yeah, I used to skateboard, and I was like, oh yeah, and he's like, yeah, like, I don't know, 30 years ago. And I was like, okay, 30 years ago? So, like, Bones Brigade and stuff? And he's like, no, way before that. And I was like, nope. That's not to tell you that you're wrong, but if just timeline speaking, like, if you skated 30 years ago, that was in the late 1980s, and that would have been, like, end of the Bones Brigade era, leading into the new like street skating of the 90s. So it's again like you are too big of a nerd of it, so like and it because again like I try to not like be that guy where I like just immediately like shut someone down and like fact check them, because I guess I feel like that can be kind of like off-putting, and I can seem like a dick where I'm just kind of like no, you're wrong. But like the other part of me too is just kind of like you need to know. Yeah. If you skated in 1989, you were not part of the Z-Boys era. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, like it's cool if you watch Dogtown and Z-Boys and you like saw that stuff and you're like, oh yeah, that was probably in the magazines. I remember seeing something about Stacy Peralta and Jay Adams. They were still relevant in the 80s, but that was definitely not their era, that's for sure. So it's I get it, just nerding out about stuff. That's cool. So, are there like Lord of the Rings podcasts? Oh, there's tons of Lord of the Rings podcasts. There's like not a ton of skateboarding podcasts. There's like a very few that are actually like really good. And there's this one I like listen to all the time called the 9 Club, and they're like always interviewing like old pro skaters and stuff and new pro skaters, so it's cool to like hear these like people's like backstories and how they got started into skateboarding and all this stuff. So I'm like ultra nerd, just love to listen to all that stuff, and it's crazy how much I probably get into all that jazz. So why don't you start the skateboarding podcast? I've thought about it a couple times, but it's like it's not on my list of things I want to do yet. So gotcha. Once it's on there, it'll happen. But yeah, right now it's like I've thought about it a couple times, but the 9 Club is just so good. I don't feel like there's really any comparison to that. Like I've thought about a couple podcasts. I want to do this one about like I just have a ton of crazy stories on all these things I do in life. Like, and I think it would be cool to like sit down and like tell a story. Because if you think about it, there's a side to every story, right? And then there's the truth. And so I have my perspective of the stories I've lived through. And then you have your perspective of the stories you've lived through with me. And if we sat down and talked about them, we're going to get both sides of that story. Yeah. And it's going to be cool how they mesh and like kind of, you'll be like, yeah, that was the time we met you, was when you were dressed like the Will and, Lion Cat. I'm like, man, I could have swore you were there the year before. Yeah. And you like were really knowledgeable about comic books, and that's why we actually knew that you would guess that we were that, So it's cool to like, I don't know, have two people's perspectives of the same story. And so I've thought about doing a podcast like that, but I don't know. I'm just now getting back into like doing podcasts with other people again, and this is same thing here, because I kind of burnt myself out before. Part of that too, though, is because like we were recording like almost like basically on a weekly basis, sometimes multiple times a week. You and Will, right?
So me and Will had an anime podcast for a little while until him and Alicia had their first kid, and so obviously that took precedent.
Yeah, and then me and you had the beer
talking tipsy.
Yeah,
which that was a lot of fun.
I've been thinking about bringing that back.
I would love to bring that back.
If nothing else, we should just do like a couple episodes, like 6 episodes or something. Mm-hmm. I've actually talked to Bancroft about taking down the old episodes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't want that trash on my So, but he sent me all the episodes because I was like, hey, send me all the episodes. Y'all take them down. I'm going to start my own thing with it. And he sent me all the episodes and then never took it down. So, I don't know. Whatever. But I actually thought about changing the name too. So, Talking Tipsy is okay, but I thought it would be cool if it was called Talking Trashed.
I like it.
Because by the end of those shows, sometimes we were pretty more than tipsy.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was the stout one, because, obviously a higher alcohol volume. Yeah. Which that was one of my favorites, because that's one of my go-to beers. But yeah, I remember, I think it was that one, and there's one other one. I can't remember which one it was. Because basically, a little bit of context for you listeners is a lot of times, we record, Talking Tipsy, and we'd go to a friend's house to play D&D. So I remember there was one time, I'm pretty sure it's the stout one, where, we would usually drink about 4 to 6 beers, not full pints, obviously.
It was normally 6 tastings was the least amount.
Yeah.
And I think the most we ever did was 13 in an episode. We did 13 tastings.
Which one was that?
Oktoberfest.
Okay, yeah. Because I think that was that the first one?
That was the first one. Yeah, we drank a ton of Oktoberfest. I think it was it was a lot. I can't remember.
I just remember, I'm pretty sure it's the stout one, where I was still a little lightheaded by the time we were playing D&D for about, first 2 hours of that session. I was still pretty lightheaded.
It's 10 o'clock at night. We recorded the podcast 4 hours ago.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved it just because, again, both of us enjoy drinking beer, and not just, it's a social thing for me. I like to socially drink, but also... I appreciate the different types of beers, and but also again I kind of burned myself more out in the one that I had here on the YouTube channel because we were doing it multiple times a week, and I hate editing, and I'm also not great at editing, and that kind of burned me out, and also is more reviewing movies and TV shows, which I enjoy, but. After a while, it kind of took the fun out of it for me, where I was kind of okay, I got to see this movie because then I got to talk about it. And so that's the main reason why I haven't really done any podcasting, and that's one reason why I wanted to have this format be very just free form, where it's we could do a whole episode about a movie or a comic book, but also want to talk about other things that I enjoy as well. And it's, I guess, I don't know. I guess it's, and then I was saying, that's kind of my favorite types of podcasts too, is where it's just hit record and see where the conversation goes.
No, it's cool. I definitely me listening to podcasts the 9 Club. I like that a lot because it's kind of that same format where they just kind of it's about skateboarding, but they go into a bunch of other rants and everything. So it's not like they're hey, we saw your video part, let's talk about this video part. They're okay, how'd you get into skateboarding? How did all this happen? What's your life And then it goes into all these other different storylines and everything. I don't know, it's awesome. I really like that style of podcasting myself too. So hopefully people like this. I don't know.
If you do comment and like this video, so that way it shows me that you like this, and I'll produce more of this content. Otherwise, I'll probably do it anyways, just because I enjoy doing it, and then you're stuck with more podcasts in the world because we don't, It's not like there's enough of those in the world right now on literally everything you can think of.
I know, it's crazy how it's almost too, what's crazy is sometimes I just think of something I want to learn about. I'm there's a podcast on it for sure. Have you watched the new Domner show?
I haven't started it yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
We just watched, my girlfriend just watched the first episode last night, and it's good so far. I mean, they got Tate from, what's that movie or show series? There's a ton of them.
American Horror Story?
That's it. American Horror Story. So it's He played Tate, I think, in the first one. Mm-hmm. So he's who plays Dahmer. I didn't know that until watching the first episode.
Okay, yeah. Evan Peters.
That's it. So, but yeah, man, it's good so far. What's crazy is I'm actually, like, kind of a nut when it comes to, like, I really like cults a whole lot. Mm-hmm. Like, different cults. I know a lot about, like, Heaven's Gate and Jonestown, and I've done a lot of reading, research, listening to podcasts on all those. And a lot of serial killers too, you know, like I was very fascinated with like John Wayne Gacy and who else? Ted Bundy. He was a very fascinating person too. Like, but Dahmer is someone who, like, I know this is gonna sound like probably so dumb, but he was just so open and out about, like, because he just confessed everything.
Yeah.
That I never really wanted to research it. I was just like, oh, whatever. It's no, like, behind the scene. It's nothing like he just.
There's not the air of mystery behind.
I know. He was just like, this is what I did, and this is why I did it. And it's like, okay. So I never was like really that fascinated with Dahmer. But watching this series, like episode 1, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to watch the next episode. Yeah. Like, I'm excited for it. So it made me want to like learn more about Dahmer. So I've been looking at podcasts because I know they're out there. Yeah. But there's like so many. It's like, I don't know which one to listen to. So
it is a little like overwhelming, like trying to start a podcast in like whatever topic or subject you're interested in, because it's kind of like, will this be good? Because a lot of it too for me is like the hosts and, you know, kind of like their presentation and like the chemistry between them and like their co-host or co-hosts. Not to say that like all of them, you know, like a podcast is bad. It's just sometimes it doesn't draw me in if they're not if there's not some kind of engaging quality about them.
Yeah. I feel like that was what was like really good about our like Talking Tipsy. It's like, I could be wrong, but I feel like me and you, like, I think it's always good when it's like actual friends starting a podcast. You know, it's like, I feel like me and you always have a lot to talk about. We're always like, you know, conversation just carries on.
Yeah. And I think like we bounce off each other really well, and usually the other people would have on the episodes weren't as, like, I guess, connoisseurs of beer like us. And so it's kind of interesting to hear their perspectives too.
Yeah.
On like whatever, you know, whether it's Oktoberfest or, you know, stouts or whatever, you know, beer we were drinking. Because I also like to kind of get like, okay, what kind of beer do you like? Because most people, from what I've gathered, when they say, oh, I don't really like beer, it's because they start drinking Bud Light and Coors and the shitty stuff, which we did an episode on, like the shitty light beers.
No audio. Never came out the unspoken. Yeah.
But that's one thing that like I found interesting though is like, you know, people like Fluff or Maincroft be like, okay, like that they kind of lean towards like that type of beer, or, you know, they just don't like stouts at all, or they don't like you know, Oktoberfest or what are the other styles we had.
IPAs.
See, there is one IPA that I really, really liked, and that was at Goodwood. It was a seasonal one. It's called Ego Chumbo.
Yeah.
Delicious. Like, I was surprised, but like when they took that away, I was kind of like, no, never take that away from me. Ever again.
No, that's, yeah, I don't know, man. That podcast was fun. We'll have to... Season 2, guys.
Yes.
Talking Trashed.
Yes.
Coming soon.
We'll drink even more.
I was thinking about doing, like, the World Beer Cup tops. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we did, like, a sample of the top 3 World Beer Cup.
Ooh,
like,
okay.
I don't know. That was, like, my idea for, like, the next season.
We had some big plans for that podcast. Like, getting to go to, like, the like breweries and stuff like that.
I actually talked to, like, 4 or 5 breweries about filming a season 2. Like, I've gotten, like, so close. It was, like, steps away from filming the next, like, season. But, yeah, I don't know. I think I just needed to talk to you. That's what it was. I just needed to hang out with you one more time, and it's like, yeah, it's got to happen. We at least got to get a couple episodes in. I think it would be fun.
Yeah, so for those of you listening, if you want to, which I think like you were saying, like, so I guess the first season would still be on Attack on Production.
Yeah, don't watch it. It sucks. All the people on there suck.
But if you felt so inclined.
Yeah, you can check it out. It's just some bad blood on there, but it's all right. You see me.
But if that's something that interests you, we can definitely do a better version in season 2.
Dude, I got so much so many ideas for season 2. It's like insane. So I think we really could do we could really make a good season 2. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it'll suck. But
we'll still have fun, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters at the end of the day. That's the thing is, like, I got friends that are like, hey, we should do this YouTube thing. We're going to make these skits. And I'm like, all right, yeah. I'm always, you know me, I'm almost always down to be on any podcast or do anything. But I feel like sometimes people just try to push so hard for it to be funny, or like, we're going to do this joke here, or like, we're going to script it. And it's like, man, just do what you think is cool.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you think it's cool and other people think it's cool, they're going to see your passion in it. They're going to see that you thought it was awesome. But then if you're just trying to do what you think might hit and might be good, you're never going to make anything out of it. I mean, it's because at the end of the day, talking tipsy, talking trash, whatever we decide to do, we're hanging out. We get to hang out, spend more time together. We get to drink good beer. It's a win-win.
Yeah, that is my ideal scenario, is drinking beer with good company.
If no one listens, oh well. Today, we're drinking good beer. We're hanging out. If no one listens to this...
Atomic Pumpkin, which is a pumpkin ale by New Belgium, I guess is the brewery, by Voodoo Ranger. And then you're drinking a Hefeweizen by Pivot.
Did you call that Volta?
Yeah, Volta, I guess is the name of that Hefeweizen.
Volta by Pivot. It's good.
And it's a local brewery, too.
Out of Lexington, yeah. New Belgium's not too far. I actually went there a couple months ago. I went to their brewery in
Where are they located?
North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's only like a 4-hour drive from here or something.
That's not too bad.
5-hour drive. Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's cool. Asheville is like not that far at all. So Katie, my girlfriend, her parents have a house in Silva, North Carolina, and it's like 45 minutes from Asheville. So we go up there and stay in their house, and then we'll drive out to Asheville and have some beers and stuff. But Asheville kind of sucks. If you're into beer, don't come to Asheville. It's just like too many people there, man. Like, we were trying to go to Wicked Weed. It was a 3-hour wait.
Wow.
It's like, we ended up putting our name on the list anyways. We're like, all right, text us. Yeah, like, we'll put our name on the list. Then we went to the next place. It was like 2.5-hour wait. And it was like, every place we would go, it was like insane waits. So we just put our name on all these lists.
Let's see who gets back to us first.
I swear, dude. Like, we were on I think 8 different lists. And we finally, I can't remember what it was called. Maybe it was Highwire. Highwire Brewing. There's one in Louisville now too. But the one in Asheville, we finally found it, and we found a line that we could stand in for the bar. So we're standing in line. We're like, all right, we're gonna get to the bar. We're gonna sit in the bar seating. We'll have a beer. We ended up talking with like this couple that was in that line too. They were super cool. When they get called, we get called in before them. We're like, hey, come on in. Yeah. Just sit with us. Like, so we go and sit in the bar with this random couple. We just hang out. And then we're sitting there having a beer with them. We're almost done with our beers. And we get a call at the first brewery. That, like, one of the breweries. And they're like, your table's ready. You got to be here in 15 minutes. And so we're like, oh, so we chug the beer. We just take out, running out the door. We run down the street. We get in there. We get our beer ordered. We sit there drinking our beer. And then we're almost done with that beer. And then we get another phone call. Like...
So it's essentially the scene in World's End where you're just going like pub to pub to pub to pub, just
Well, that was our plan, is to do like kind of like a brewery crawl, because I can't remember how many breweries there are in Nashville, but it's ridiculous. Like, and they're all within like walking distance of each other. So it's something a lot of people do. You just go there, and that's why everybody wants to do it, is because you just go there and walk around all these breweries. And if someone made like a pass, if I could pay like $100. And you schedule all my stuff for me, and I just get on a little van and I go there, I would love to do that in Nashville. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Take note, if you're a tourist agency or something like that in that area,
I'm always down to invest in the companies too. So if you want to do it, hit us up. Find my contact info, reach out to me, like, because I would invest into that company, because I think if you could dial it in with the other breweries and get it to where you could set a schedule for people. Yeah. I mean, that'd be tight, but...
Because they also wouldn't be competing with each other either, because, like, a group of, like, whoever, like whether it be one person or schedule like a group of 6.
Yeah.
6 people going all across the different breweries, whether they have 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, or however much. It's kind of like you're all making business. It's a good.
Lexington has it. It's called On Tap. It might actually be a thing already in Asheville. I just can't find it. I don't know. Like if someone has information about it and it's a thing already, please send that to me too. I would love to just be able to go to Asheville and pay money for them to take me around a brewery. So I would do that, but couldn't find it then. So I don't know. But if you're going to get beer, don't go to Asheville. Go to Silva. You can go to Silva. You can go to Bryson City. There's a bunch of Cherokee. There's a bunch of places outside of Asheville because Asheville is so well known for craft beer that all the surrounding like little places, like little towns and stuff, have a ton of breweries. I mean, in Silva, I think there's a population of like 20,000 people, and there's like 8 breweries. It's smaller than Lexington and more breweries than Lexington or something. Like it's crazy. Like so, and plus every gas station, every liquor store, everywhere you go, it's just walls of craft beer. I mean,
which is the best kind of beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only beer to drink.
Yeah.
I always tell people, if you don't like beer, you don't like the beer you've had.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't like
the sheer variety. I mean, like, there's like a lot of variety in like wines and spirits, like whiskey, tequila, and all that stuff. But like, I feel like beer is the king of all alcoholic beverages because like just the sheer variety in like one like of stouts or Hefeweizens. You're gonna have some that are maybe a bit like stouts. You might have some that are kind of chocolatey. You're gonna have some that are maybe like nutty or caramelly. It's like you have essentially this unlimited list of possibilities. Like just
what was the like nitro? It's like not carbonated or something.
I think I don't remember if it was a Guinness Nitro, but
we had some Nitro. It was like super good.
Yeah,
it was like very smooth and
it was
creamy.
It was off-putting initially, just because I was expecting like a non-carbonated beer, but then I was kind of like, this is kind of like a creamy.
Yeah.
Not quite like a chocolate milk like taste, but like that kind of consistency.
It was good.
Yeah,
I liked it. So, yeah, I don't know. That's what we should do. Go to Asheville.
I'm down for that.
Talking Tipsy, Season 2.
We're traveling, baby.
Talking Trashed, Season 1. Asheville. Who knows?
And then Season 3, Talking We're Just Past Out.
That's funny, yeah. Talking Tipsy, Talking Trash should be
Talking Blackback.
Yeah, it did.
We've drank so much, we're trying to do a podcast coherently.
It should be called Just Talking. Just Talking Beer.
We try to make it through an hour-long podcast with a coherent sentence. First one to pee, they have to drink more.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. I like that. Just every season we have a different name, and it means we're getting more drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing it for you, people.
For sure. No. So is this going to be on YouTube? What is this?
So probably on YouTube initially. Once I get my website like up and running for once I get published, then I might transition like podcasts on there, or even just do like separate ones.
Links.
Maybe have like this podcast here on YouTube be a bit more like laid back, and maybe do one on the website that's more geared towards something else. I don't know. I'm kind of just winging it at this point and seeing what sticks.
Nice.
Just kind of my approach in life.
Well, I got to do some plugs here. Yeah. So, I mean, check us out. Van Hauling Skate Shop. We're on all social media platforms. Website coming soon. I got this new Instagram called Rock on Kentucky. We're getting ready to hit all the social platforms as well. Like, I don't have TikTok on anything, but I think I'm going to do a Rock on Kentucky TikTok. So, you can see me skip some rocks on TikTok. I think I'm going to call it Tick Rock.
Nice.
We'll see. But yeah, Rock on Kentucky, Van Hauling Skate Shop, local skateboards. Check us out on everything.
Yeah.
We're on the interwebs. You just Google us, you'll find us.
I think with that out of the way, since we're going on almost an hour and a half, we can go ahead and start wrapping this up. But anything else you want to plug or promote or just talk about before we wrap up this return and debut episode of the Pasty Pale Podcast?
I actually really like the people that I did Talking Tipsy with. So if you're listening to this, I actually love all you guys. I just went through a rough lifetime tragedy, and I love you guys.
I may not have liked one of you. Guess who? Now it's going to be a conspiracy. Did Jake secretly dislike one of us, and who was it, and why?
Jake for sure didn't like one of you all. So
yeah, let's just fan the flips. So it'll be awkward anytime I see any one of them again. It's kind of like, heard you didn't like one of us.
Have you seen anyone from that show since?
The only one that I've seen is Fluff.
Okay.
I've seen him a few times, but yeah, he's the only one that I've seen.
Yeah, that's very common from what I hear from a lot of people that were in our friend groups. So, but Talking Trash coming soon.
Yeah, Talking Trash. Like, comment, subscribe. Patreon. Send us money to get drunk, and it's happening. Which it seems like it's going to happen regardless. But, it'd be great if we could, give us...
We should have beer koozies for Talking Trash.
Yes.
Talking Trash beer koozies coming soon.
So, all sorts of plans down the line. But, hopefully you will enjoy this episode, and hopefully you will enjoy more episodes to come and other things that we got going on down the road. So until next time, everyone, cheers.